G'day, welcome to Deep and Meaningfuls with Furzey. On this episode of the pod, I'm chatting with Dane Muller. You may remember Dane from episode 24. He has an organisation called Heartled Warriors, a men's group, and he facilitates men's retreats aimed at personal development and growth. I've since been on that retreat and changed my life. We do a bit of a debrief on the retreat and the things that we learned and what we went through. It really exceeded my expectations. That was the case for pretty much everybody that came on the retreat. Some of the guys in particular had a complete transformation, and it was beautiful to be in the presence of. We talk about anger a fair bit, and that came up a lot on the retreat, understanding how damaging it can be to just hang on to it and not release it. I just want to do a shout out to all the guys that came on the retreat. I love you fellas. It was a real privilege to go through that experience with you. I'm really grateful. And Dane, thank you for facilitating. You're doing some good work, man. In this pod, we also talk about pregnancy loss. Dane and I have both experienced miscarriages. Unfortunately, Dane and his wife, Nadine, have been through it twice. And it's something that as guys, we don't really discuss. I mean, it's not really discussed in general very much. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Dane Muller.
Derogatory comments on some reels.
Oh, which, really?
Your guys, one of the first ones from you.
What is it?
Better males, gay as fuck. I'm just like, I don't need that shit.
Yeah.
So
isn't that an interesting one?
I'm just like, I don't know. Yeah.
It's quite, those kind of comments I think are quite telling.
Yeah. It's just, there's so many men that don't, and people in general don't make sense of it. I get it because it's so unusual because they see the yelling and the screaming and they're like, oh, this isn't what it is because they think that that's what we're asking everyone to do every single day or every single weekend. Well, that's just a small part of it. So,
but I think it's even, I think you're being too kind. I think just pull that right up to your mouth, man, that mic, and you can yank it around. Yeah. I reckon you're being too kind because when I observe my reaction to seeing the videos that you guys put up of people yelling, guys yelling and screaming and crying, my initial reaction is run away from that.
Yeah.
It's too confronting. And then the response to that reaction is protection, which is that's gay or you're a beta male or whatever, insert protective mechanism here. Yeah. So I just see it when people say the stuff like, you know, someone posted a meme of the what was that? What's the cowboy movie? The gay cowboy movie?
Oh yeah.
Of them hugging each other. I actually thought that was Brokeback Mountain. Yeah, and that was like, we hugged each other a lot.
Yeah, I saw you reply to that. Yeah. Yes, we do.
Well, I didn't wear we didn't wear the hats.
Yeah,
but we did hug each other a lot.
100%.
And it was I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I made really great friends by hugging some dudes who were going through some vulnerable shit.
Yeah.
Just like I was.
Yeah.
I needed a hug.
Yeah. And again, I make sense of all of it. And I guess I just hold a projection of everyone's, I guess I hold everyone to their highest projection and when some people aren't, and that's okay. Like you said, it's a reaction of fear.
Yeah.
Of, oh my goodness, what would that mean if I was to be that vulnerable in front of people?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That I truly believe that is the start.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too much for me. That's too confronting. And then you go into either you ignore it or if you need to put it down to make you feel better, you put it down, or you know, all those sorts of things. Because maybe it's the Andrew Tate influence, or maybe it's just the old school and general influence of, and we talked about this last time. Men don't show your vulnerability, don't show your feelings, and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
Which is definitely not true.
Is creating more of a problem. Getting men to suppress, getting people to suppress in general is the issue. Yes, I guess in the older days of the wooden ships and Iron Men, it was you suppressed, you didn't feel, you didn't acknowledge. You just
and that makes sense when you're on a ship.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, even like just even 20 years ago, it was a different time. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it was 60 years ago, and my dad was dragging logs out of the Pilliga scrub with a draft horse. It's not that long ago where that was the way, but it's just not today. And it's challenging to get everyone to just open or broaden their awareness a little bit to, yes, there is more things out there to do that. And look, giving credit to the Tates, there are more things coming or being shown of them showing emotion and things like that, which is great. And I make sense of why they did what they did to begin with to gain that internet fame, which is great. And they're doing some great things. So
I hate to admit that sometimes Andrew Tate is pretty funny.
Yes.
In a real like schoolyard bully but very clever insult way.
Yep.
There's times when something will come up and I try and avoid him as much as I can, but you can't because he's everywhere.
Yeah.
But something will come up and he'll say something that's and I'm like,
yeah,
it's mean, but it's still funny.
And you can see where it's just so he can garner that attention too, which is does what he does.
So man, you're such a dick.
Yeah.
But that was pretty funny.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're still a dick.
Yeah.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah. The big thing with men and emotion, and it's no one's fault. It's just a societal programming of men don't cry, men are tough, and that's okay. And then there's a lot of misinformation, I would say, out there about stoicism. Though if you actually go back and read the original rules from Marcus Aurelius and all the philosophers that created the stoicism rules, they're not telling you to suppress anything. They're actually telling you to acknowledge your emotions, feel your emotions, let them move through you so you can control them. So it's a big thing. And then another thing that I like to speak about is there's two things, and I think I spoke about this on the retreat with you, is when we're born, there's two things that we do. We take our first breath and then we cry. That emotion of crying, or emotion in general, is a sign of life. So why are we as men in particular suppressing something that shows life?
Do you know what the answer is? Because there's not one.
No,
but what are your theories on why that is happening?
The suppression?
Yeah.
It's just something that's been taught. I think in Australia too, when you're young, if you cry in front of your mates, you get teased or bullied, or remember that day you cried back in year 6, or there's things like that. So it's actually taught. And it's a societal conditioning, societal programming that has been come through generations. And I feel that's what we're doing and what a lot of other people are doing to help show that it's okay. And I mean, yourself, like there's the vulnerability of letting yourself be seen in front of people showing emotion, whether it be sadness, anger, and any of them, they're all great, is that's where you gain your strength from.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting, you just said, when you're a little kid and you cry in front of your mates, they tease you. But yet I just went on your retreat, and granted these guys weren't mates of mine before, but they definitely are now.
Yep.
And that happened pretty quickly. We became friends, and that happened through vulnerability. That's how we became friends. And I feel bonded to you and these other guys that went through, that put themselves in that position and were also vulnerable. I feel more bonded with them than I have with many people that I've called friends my entire life. Yeah. Because we were vulnerable.
So you try showing your true self.
And isn't that funny? We're adults now, and there's that transition phase of when we're kids. Little kids cry all the time. Boys, girls, all the time. And then something happens where they get to a point where both boys and girls stop crying as much. And that comes from, I guess, parents encouraging them not to cry about their problems and trying to do something about it.
Yeah.
And maybe them thinking that they don't want to, and pressures from all over the place.
Yeah.
and that changes. Exactly. Yeah. Groups of boys say, don't cry.
Yeah. It stems from how you're parented too. Like and it's not again, there's no right or wrong, or it's no one's fault. It's just how we've been taught or they've been taught. One of the first things you tell your child is, well, in the past, this is what we did, was when they're crying, don't cry. It's okay. Instead of let's cry, let that emotion move through you, and then let's find out why and how and help the situation. Or especially for boys, don't get angry. Don't get angry, which just builds and builds and builds. When they have this explosion and then they're like, oh, they've got anger problems, or they've got ADD, ADHD, all of it, but it's because we're not letting them actually feel their emotion.
Yeah. Well, isn't that, you get to the point where there's this group of adults, men, and every one of us were relating to each other because I guess we were all feeling like, oh, I want to cry. Like, if I'm honest, I want to cry too.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I was like, I don't even really know what it's about.
Yeah.
But I want to get it out.
Yep.
A lot of the guys had more specific things, and some of the guys didn't. They were ashamed that they couldn't cry. Some of the guys had, and they were open about that. They had things happen to them in their lives, and they confessed that they hadn't cried since however many years ago because of something that happened, or maybe they didn't know why. But they were like, they were desperate to cry because they're around these other guys who are showing that it's okay, and you still. You know, what happens if you cry? Or what, you're no longer a man, you're no longer a person, you're no longer an adult? You look at the transformation between that happens from some of these, pretty much all of us, before and after that emotional purge.
Yeah.
And you could definitely feel it, but you could physically see it on some of the guys' faces.
Yeah.
They changed.
Years and years and years of suppressed anger, sadness, all of it. And like yourself, you had this sadness within you and you couldn't make sense of it. And I had those questions that I asked you throughout the retreat, and this is just for me to dive in a little further for you. And knowing that you have done some work and for yourself with your journeys, and being so open to greater fields, planes, realms, all of that. I asked you the question, was that sadness for you? And I always ask the question, whatever the first answer is, and you said no straight away. It's like, cool, can you be okay with not making sense of it? Because it may not be your sadness. It can be passed on. So there's a lot more research going into around generational trauma, and we hold on to, or we can pass on generational trauma, whether that be sadness, anger, all of it, to our children. We get it from our parents, they get it from their parents, and so on and so on. So
I can understand how that concept can be difficult or frustrating to embrace for some people. But I think there are two ways of looking at it. There's one way that's very woo-woo, which is it is energetically passed into your child through your DNA. That's, I think, much harder for us to grasp. I buy it.
Yep.
I think that is the case. But I can understand how some folks might be like, no, I don't get that.
Completely. Though there's science behind it too, which backs up that energetic woo-woo stuff, is that we are actually all made up of atoms, and atoms are energy. And to create new life, we have to create new atoms and energy within us, and that's all part of us. So there is science behind it. There's a lot more research coming out now to back up all of that, which helps getting the word out there and things like that.
There is. And one of the, just on that point, one of the things that's blown my mind is when you know that our physical body, you think, well, when I was a little baby, I grew my hands and my I didn't grow them, they grew. I've got to grow a hand. And I grew my hand, grew my arms, and now I'm an adult, and these are the same arms. Well, when you learn that your cells, I think it's every 8 years, every cell within your body has died and is now new.
Yeah.
So you technically are physically a completely new human piece of physical matter. Every part of you is only like at the most 8 years old.
Which is insane, right?
Which is amazing. Yet your memories are still intact.
Yeah.
All of your lessons that you've learned through your past is all still stored in the DNA in somewhere.
Yep.
Call it the DNA, call it the spirit. I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
But it's in there. And that kind of was like, for me, that was like, oh, wow, that's really blown my mind. But anyway, coming back to what I was saying, the way that I think for people to embrace the concept of generational trauma a little easier is, let's say there's someone who his dad beat the shit out of him when he was a kid. He grows up and he suppresses that and he never deals with it. He never forgives his father. Maybe his father didn't deserve to be forgiven. He never even really talks about it. He never really addresses it at all. And he's angry about it. And then because of that, he does the same thing to his child. Yeah. I mean, that's a very rational, simple way to understand what generational trauma is.
Hugely. It's what's modeled to him. It's what's been programmed to him. I know we say program, but it's been what's taught to him. So he doesn't know any different. He knows better, I will say that, because it's happened to him, though. It's almost like there's a point of you don't actually have control. It's just what happens. And a lot of people are becoming more aware of it, so they are able to do something about it. Even if that so-called person was abused as a kid and he doesn't end up doing it to his children, it will come out in other ways, whether it be verbal, to his children, to his wife, to his workmates. There'll be lots of other ways where that will come out.
Or it might come out in the opposite reaction to he's just so introverted and has no courage and doesn't stand up for himself or anyone around him.
Because he's so worried about something ticking him off that he won't know what he'll do. He'll lose control. Yes, hugely possible.
And I think that's pretty simple to understand. I totally get that.
Yeah.
So, and maybe that is the only way the generational trauma happens. Maybe the energetic stuff isn't a real thing. Okay, that other one's still very, very real.
Yes. Yeah. And it's probably a lot easier term or way to grasp for people that don't believe or aren't making sense of the energetics or the spiritual side or whatever you want to call it. But that right there is plain and simple.
Yeah.
And I think seeing and knowing that for a lot of people, if you don't agree with it or don't, it's just ignorance if you're not making sense of that, I believe. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. Talking about Stoicism before, what do you, I haven't studied any Stoicism. Have you done much?
A little bit, yeah. As much as I know, I only know what I know, right? So I've looked into it to help me through explaining it to other people because I definitely trust my intuition hugely, where I've been given questions around Stoicism or someone's told me about Stoicism. And just for me, I'm like, that doesn't feel right. So I'll go and have a look.
Sure.
So yeah, I looked at, I was reading up the 12 rules. I can't remember them off the top of my head though. Yeah, had a look and deeper into it and how they originated and why they were. So it was over 2,000 years ago that they first come about.
So it's a philosophy.
It's a philosophy, yeah. Though
yeah, right.
I think it really aligns with masculinity.
Right.
Because it was men that created it. Though women, it does align with women too, but in particular for men because we're a men's group. And the idea, I really feel like the philosophers, Marcus Aurelius, all those guys that were involved in creating these and how they had I really believe they knew that times would change. So these philosophies or these rules that they have for Stoicism are transferable with time. So there's an old school mindset of masculinity that doesn't align with today's day and age. So bringing a new version of masculinity with those values into today's day and age still aligns with the Stoicism rules.
Mm-hmm. Could you give me the basic rundown of the Stoicism rules? The Stoics mentality? Because I know a little bit, but I'll probably butcher it.
Yeah, there's four main pillars. Again, off the top of my head, I'd have to have a look. I've got them on my phone. I can't remember them off the top of my head. But there's four main pillars, and under those pillars, there's rules. So there's rules like very simple rules like get up. Number one's get up, win the day. And it's just all about being in that positive mindset. Win the day. Even if things aren't going your way, how can you still win the day? So it's very easy, very transferable today as well. There's just very simple. It's really simple. The big one around emotions was the Stoicism, because this is where a lot of people bring that old school masculinity mindset and throw it into stoicism where it's not quite right, whereas men don't cry. So let's push that down because that's what the Stoics did. And that's not what the Stoics did, because there's actually in their scriptures, I'll say, about a man makes sense of his, or they acknowledge it, feel it, make sense of why, and then they get to move on.
Okay, so it's more of an analytical, observational perspective of your emotional state.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. And that's for the highs and the lows, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Because my understanding of it was, it's about not getting too lost in your extreme emotions, whether they be positive or negative.
Yep.
Because they always swing back one way or the other.
Always, yeah.
And if you can control yourself in the highs, you can control yourself in the lows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty sound.
Oh, I believe it is, yeah. It's just, again, there's a lot of misinformation or lots of things where people will read or hear something and then go, and then I'll put it to the Stoicism rules where they actually haven't. And I've had lots of conversations online about it. They're like, that's not Stoicism. I'm like, hey, when was the last time you actually sort of had a bit of a read of this? And I'll send them the link. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. It's not about proving right or wrong. It's just like, let's have a look at this on a bigger...
I can't believe you're having conversations with the people online and they're going, oh, thanks for the feedback.
Well, some do, some don't, which is okay.
Some of it's like, isn't it? I think I was listening to this Mike Tyson quote where he was talking about social media and he was saying people have gotten far too comfortable with insulting someone and not getting punched in the face for it.
Yeah.
Which I think, some of the shit that people will say.
Oh, it's
punch-worthy.
It's hugely punch-worthy. And it sucks that that's how, because I love social media as a tool for great information, positivity, but at the same time it's got that dark side to it as well. So, I mean, I use social media with intent to give or look at information. Again, I'm on social media all the time.
Yeah, you can't
business-wise.
In your position,
I have to be. It's our most powerful tool to spread our mission, to spread our word. Though the scrolling piece is very limited. So yes, I'm on it all the time. Though I'm not on social media as well. So,
I've pulled right back from it, man. I'm like, I don't even have it on my phone.
Oh, beautiful.
So I just have it on my iPad. So I feel, and it's interesting because I talked about it in a couple of podcasts ago where I was like, I'm just going to remove it from my phone and then be more intentional about using it and have it on my iPad so that then there's a time every day when I sit down and go, okay, I'm going to do my stuff that I need to do for social media instead of just having it with me all the time.
Yeah.
And I've done it, and it was really interesting because the first week, the amount of times I found myself by habit going to where Instagram is.
Yeah, it's just passing.
Because I had an Instagram intentionally on like the third page.
Yep.
Because I wanted there to be extra steps, just for a moment for me to go, do you need to do this?
Yeah.
And the amount of times, and I'd whip my phone out of my pocket and just go to the third page and it wouldn't be there, and I'd be like, oh, it was amazing. Yep. And I was like, this is just observing this habit of how powerful that is. And the little moment of, oh, I don't get the dopamine hit. It was really interesting to observe just how much of a hold that had on me. And I was proud of myself for being able to be strong enough to not cave. And now I'm like, because I haven't been on it as much, when I go on my iPad, I don't actually like it really.
Yeah, cool.
I go on and I'll scroll for a minute and I'm like, I don't like this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, it's been removed from my life enough to be, well, the other thing I did is I did a big purge and I just got rid of all these accounts.
Yeah.
And when, the suggested things, I got rid of those too.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty boring feed that I have, to be honest.
And that's the best way to do it. Using it with intent is a big piece, and it depends on someone's mindset too. So you can use it with intent and have all these positive things in it, and then the old saying of what is it? I had it in my head. It's gone. Obviously, wasn't supposed to speak about it then.
Well, the thing that made me do it was going on the retreat because when we were there, I had no service. So I know some of the guys did, and I was actually going to talk to you about this. It made the experience. That's when it started.
Yeah,
because that was when I found I took my phone with me when we would go out and do things, and I would keep checking it, knowing that I couldn't even get a text message, let alone update my socials.
It's habit. It's a program. Yeah,
and I think it made my experience on the retreat even more immersive because I wasn't able to even check in with my wife, let alone check in with the bullshit version of the world that is on social media.
Everything happens for a reason, right? You were craving deeper communication, deeper connection, conversation, and that allowed you to do that with so many others instead of being on the phone.
Fully immerse into that.
Comparison is a thief of joy. That's where I was getting with this. So it's easy to have intent on social media, though, again, the mindset can quickly change. You have all these positive things and you can go, why is that person so positive and I'm not? So that's that comparison is a thief of joy. So a mindset shift, everything has polarity. Yes, I do believe comparison is a thief of joy, but comparison can be an absolute driver as well.
Sure.
Just depending on how you look at it. If you feel yourself scrolling and you've got nothing but positive things in there, but you're like, why are they positive? Why are they happy and I'm not?
Yes, it's a framing thing, isn't it?
It's a framing thing.
If it's I can be better and this is motivating me to be better, awesome. But if it's I'm shit and it's not motivating,
then
and finding that being able balance, to lean towards
or again, how deep do you want to go? Like, why am I not happy? Like, there's so many questions you can start asking yourself if you're comparing it and it's putting you in a negative mindset. So, life's tricky.
Life
can be tricky.
Piece of piss, mate. Yeah, man. It's one of those things where, and I think we even talked about this on the retreat. For me, the more that I learn about myself and about my place in the world, the more I realize I don't know anything. And that gets even more scary. And then it's like the rings of a tree. You open up one, and then there's an even bigger one around the outside. There's even more. It's so true.
It is so true. It's it's so deep.
Yeah.
Life. And to think that we're just a little speck of what's actually out there.
Yeah. I think it was Jim Carrey who was there's this motivational Jim Carrey speech where he talks about getting lost in the small me. Or the big me or something, I don't know. But he's and it's talking about perspective.
Yep.
And I think listening to someone like Jim Carrey say this kind of stuff, it just lands a little deeper because this is a guy who he was for a good chunk of time the most famous person in the world. He still is a household name.
Yep.
He was the most highly paid actor in the world for a while and won all the awards and was just, where rich and famous, the peak of where rich and famous gets to.
Yeah.
And yet he has had this awakening of consciousness and of his place in the world. And he's out there saying, I've done all this super cool stuff that that lots of people want to achieve. I've achieved it. And I hate to tell you, but it's not that great.
It doesn't make me happy.
It hasn't fulfilled me.
Yeah.
And he was talking about has this rant about perspective and observing the universe and getting stuck in the small me. And it's just really interesting to hear someone like him.
I haven't seen that one in particular, though he has some very deep conversations on some really cool platforms that are really profound and just open your mind up to a lot of different things.
Did you see the one where he goes to the fashion awards?
On the red carpet?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And he just smokes them he's like, what are you doing here, Jimmy? He goes I just wanted to come to the most meaningless thing I could find. And she's doing her best to maintain the facade. And he's just poking holes in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a real moment of hang on, you're not supposed to do this.
Yeah.
You're meant to play the game.
Do you think you got an invite back the next year?
They probably would have allowed him if he turned up. He's famous enough.
Yeah. I wanted to bring a conversation to the table because everyone looks at what we do and thinks it's really serious and hard, and it is in times and points. So, did you have fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a huge point of difference for us. I shouldn't say point of difference, but it is, because we want to have fun with it.
Yeah.
It gets to be fun. Healing, growth, all of it looks so serious online. And I know what we post looks pretty serious and confronting, though. We're cracking jokes from the first minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the fun, like, how can you have fun doing the most fun thing if you're stressed or anxious? Like, you can be doing whatever you would deem to be the most fun thing in the world. You can be at a theme park, you can be, I don't know, whatever you think is the most fun thing. And if you're really stressed and anxious, you're not going to enjoy yourself. Whereas when we get to the retreat and we do, I think it was the relief that happened pretty quickly when we all unloaded a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
A bunch of emotional stuff that we've been carrying. And one, we got it off our chest, and two, we were doing it together. So we felt that innate thing that human beings need, which is, I need to feel connected to my community. You're doing it. You feel better. I can see it on your face. Oh shit. Oh, you doing it. You're doing it. You feel better too. Fuck, maybe I can do it. Maybe I'll feel better.
Yeah.
That happened. And then the third thing is also knowing that, like, when I do it and I actually just go there and get it out and have a big emotional purge, no one judges me. No one cares. In fact, they judge me if I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
exactly.
judge, but, you know,
Yes.
they want that for me.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been part of a more emotionally supportive group of people, let alone dudes, that group chat that we have has turned into.
Yeah.
Every morning I wake up and there's guys patting each other on the back and being positive.
Yep.
There's also a lot of banter and talking shit.
Yes.
Because we're still normal dudes.
Yeah, we're all 18.
Yeah, at the most. But it's so coming back to your question about having fun is, I think that we were all, after that purge and that, like, relief came, and I was just like able to I was able to let my shoulders drop and and we all were just hanging out was fun.
Yeah.
We weren't even really doing much. We were just sitting and waiting for the next thing at one point and just chatting with each other, getting to know each other, laughing. It was fun.
Yeah.
There's no roller coasters. There was no, motorbikes or anything. It was just hanging out, and it was really fun.
Just no facade.
Yeah.
No walls. Just, you're actually your full self.
Yes.
You're letting everyone see you. You're seeing everyone. It's how it should be.
Yes.
Like kids, when you're a kid, there's no, to a point, I'll say, it's probably a little different now, but I remember growing up as a kid, there was no wall or facade as a kid when you're meeting friends. They knew everything about you, warts and all. Yeah. Especially your closer friends. I guess as you get a little bit older, you become more aware of emotion and things. Again, it's a learned behaviour. So I guess that's when that starts, with those walls and the facades, because you want to look cool or feel cool or fit in. So what if everyone just fit in by sharing?
Yeah, well, that's actually how you do it. It's as soon as it's embracing the vulnerability. It's coming to terms with the truth that is the good stuff is what is that? What is the saying? It's like the good stuff is on the other side of the things you're resisting. That's where it is.
That's exactly where it is. Look, if I hadn't have lent into my vulnerability, don't know if I'd be here today. Not just in this room, but as in alive and having the life that I've created for myself. And I definitely wouldn't have been able to have this outlet for men, women's, couples to be able to do the same. So I can still remember where we were, what I was doing when I first spoke online about my mental health challenges, and how it was received, which was beautiful. And I'm like, okay, there's something to this.
That moment, what was it? Because I'm really trying to get to figuring out how people can take that step. Because it's all good and well to talk about what's on the other side, but if it's not enough to motivate a person to do the thing that gets them there, then it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It means something to the people that have done it and go, you're totally right, I've done it. So for you, like getting from before confessing your feelings and your state of mental health to after confessing it, do you know what it was that made you do it? Because you must have been, you've spent your whole life not doing it.
Yeah.
So why did you do it? Why did you do it instead of take your own life? Like what? There was a turning point.
That's a really great question. I had huge amounts of love and support from my wife with it. And she like, for most men, our wives see so much more in us than we see in ourselves. And she could see that in me. I guess knowing the impact Nadine was having online already with motivating people and things like that, I'm like, oh, okay. And I don't, it was something, because at the time I was seeing psychs, I was doing all the things. It was something I was tasked with by just sharing with my friends. And I'm like, oh, I could share it with my friends.
Who gave you that task?
The psych I was seeing at the time.
And they encouraged you to share your feelings with your friends?
Yes. So, which was one of the coolest things. Though at the time I didn't feel safety in my friends with sharing that, because I had an experience where I did share it with someone and it just didn't go how I'd thought, which is, again, no one's fault. But
your reaction was, like, I'm not going to do that again.
Basically, yeah. Possibly
because you bare yourself, and if it's not received with warmth or a beta male hug, then you're like, well, fuck, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, or a Denny bum tap.
Yeah.
So knowing that and knowing, I guess, looking back, this is really cool to look back on too. I guess unconsciously I knew, because I was always the guy that my mates come to with challenges,
right,
and helping them, which is something I loved, though I never did it for myself. And knowing that, I was probably a little scared to do that, going, oh, what if now they don't come to me if they have a problem or a challenge? So I was like,
because by showing that you have your own problems.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you thought that you needed to create this facade that you have all your shit together all the time.
Yep. Yeah. So, and that was the facade, and that's what a lot of people believed. And deep down, I knew it wasn't true. And so I was like, I spoke with Nadine, my wife, about it, and she's like, why don't you just start speaking online?
You're like, because I am terrified.
It's
like, what are you, fucking
scared.
Crazy?
So we were traveling, and on our family page, we had probably about 10,000 people in the audience. Nadine had about 35,000 people in her audience. So I'm just like, yeah, well, let's just do that. And I was just like, I wasn't thinking anything greater than myself at the time. And it was just like, because I had felt relief in letting Nadine know all my darkest challenges, and the relief just in that alone was huge. So I was like, okay, maybe if I do share a little bit more, there'll be some more relief. So yeah, we posted a reel to begin with, and the feedback I got, I was just like, okay. But the feedback I got from partners and wives about their husbands, because they could relate, and they're like, oh, wow, maybe my partner's with us. So I'm like, okay, there's something to this vulnerability and sharing piece. So, and then it wasn't long after that, I remember hearing about a father taking his life. And it really, really got to me, because I probably still hadn't fully admitted to myself how close I was to maybe doing the same thing. And it really got to me. And then I was in tears about it. I didn't even know the person. He'd left his wife and children behind. I think I may have known them through someone. And I just jumped on the stories straight away. I was just like, with encouragement and love from my partner. And I was just like, okay, and it was hugely confronting for me. Though I jumped on, tears, I think I shared a GoFundMe page about it. And again, the feedback from that, from men that time about seeing that was another thing that spurred me on. So it was, there was no one point I'm going to say. There was lots of little points to do that. And I feel growing up, I always knew that I was ready for something bigger. Just what that was, I don't know. I felt, and I truly believe all men are leaders in their own way. And I knew that what I was doing in my life wasn't what I was supposed to be doing and leading and how I wanted to lead. So yeah, it was at that point where I started to realize sharing my story, being vulnerable, gave me so much confidence, so much power. Hearing from others and the support was obviously huge as well. And it just started to steamroll from there.
I think that's a powerful point that you said there about maybe if I share more, I'll feel more relief. I think that's a notable epiphany. But I was just the human condition, right? We realize how, and we learnt this through the COVID stuff and the lockdowns, and you know this just even as a child, but observing how powerful the desire for us to feel connected to our community, to our tribe, it really brings a lot of things into perspective.
Yeah.
When you understand how people will do, I mean, even horrible things because it's what the group is doing. You know, you look at these big genocides that have happened, like the Holocaust and all kinds of awful things. There are a lot of people complicit in that. They're not all evil. You can't have that many people that are all just psychopaths.
Yeah.
But the behavior they're doing is psychopathic.
Yeah.
And it's coming from the desire for being connected with the group, being more powerful than doing something that may cause you to be an outcast, but feel morally right.
Yeah.
So
there's fear of judgment I had to get over in a big way.
And that's
because
it's not easy.
No,
because because I might be alone.
Yeah.
All my friends may not want to be friends with me.
Yeah.
And I'll have, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Yeah. What am I going to do? What are my friends going to think? What are my family going to think when I come out and say this? Having, again, the relationship I have with my wife is one of the greatest things of my life. And the strength at that time that I was able to gain from her with doing it, and the support and the love and what she knew that was possible for me before I even knew it, was one of the biggest things. And it was the point of being in fear of what are my mates going to say or do, or it was just that final switch of like, I don't care.
And the relief is more powerful. And
before I even got on that, once I had made that decision in my mind, I was just like, in my body, no tension, and just was able to do it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it may have taken like difference to begin with, if sharing something may have taken a few takes.
Sure.
I wasn't great with speaking on and out and things like that, though. Even just putting a story out, talking about fears or whatever it may be at the time was just, yeah.
It's a hard hurdle to get over. And I think I was actually talking with Jeff about this yesterday, and his response to this, basically this exact question was like, well, they're not your friends anyway. Yeah. And that in itself is a tricky thing to grasp. You got to go, oh, well, what, I need to get a new friend group? So it's like, yeah, I think a really extreme version of that to be understood is, let's say there's a kid he knows he's gay and he has these groups of friends that aren't gay. And then when he goes through that journey of coming to terms with going, you know what, I'm gay. The fear of not being able to connect with his straight friends would be so huge. But eventually he'll find, or pretty quickly, he'll find his own community of people who are either okay with him being gay, which is probably a lot of people these days, or are gay.
Yep.
And so then that's like, and he's like, oh my God, I actually get to just drop all the shit. Well, then, I mean, that's a very overt way of explaining that. But I think what we're talking about now is it's like, if I don't have a group of friends that I can express real emotions and maybe get a bit sad, then maybe I just need to find a group of friends who I can do that with.
Yeah, and
that's what we did on the retreat.
And on the other part of that, have you actually given them the opportunity to see and feel that too? Because you might surprise judging someone's
true
behaviour before you've even done it. It's like throwing them in jail before they've even had the trial.
That's a great point.
There's so much polarity in everything to absolutely everything. The most part, what we were speaking about first is true. So another big thing for me with the fear of judgment was my wife's never been fearful of judgment. She just doesn't give a fuck. And it's something that we speak about. Like this is some of the process. This is to show you that people don't give a fuck. They're too busy in their own minds, own heads to worry about what you're worrying about. And I looked at that, and I looked at how much fun I was having in my life when I was worried about fear, and it wasn't much. Then I looked at her life with the no fear of judgment and how much more fun she was having. Even being a dad, like being a kid with my kids, having fun. I wasn't doing that because I was too worried about what others might think if I was to fucking put a costume on and be out at the playground with them or something like that. I'm like, what is that? And I'm just like, what am I sacrificing here by worrying about what others think? Like, I'm not being the dad that I know I can be, and my children aren't getting the dad that they deserve because I'm too worried about what fucking Rick Dalton might think down the road or something.
Fuck Rick Dalton.
I knew I wanted to throw that in there somewhere along the lines.
It's actually Rick Dalby.
Rick Dalby.
Thanks very much.
Sorry, mate.
Hey, but the Rick went through
I didn't watch much Neighbours when I was young.
Don't you dare, you bastard. Absolute blasphemy, that is.
Yeah.
We were always number one, by the way.
You were.
Neighbours isn't even alive anymore. Well, it came back, didn't it?
I don't know.
I think they died and then they were revived.
Okay, good.
The nature of Australian soaps has changed since the golden era when I was on, mate.
I do remember you being on, and I think the only other show I remember or soap of Australian soaps that I watched may have been Hey Dad and E Street. That's probably showing my age hugely there.
Yeah.
So,
It's funny that period of my life because I really, when I think about it, and especially when I see footage of me on Home and Away, I have so little connection to it because I have changed and been through so much since then and because of that. And it's an interesting place to be in because there are still a lot of people who only know me as that and they want to talk to me about that.
Yeah.
And it's weird for me because I feel like I'm talking about a stranger, and I have these conversations with people, not very often anymore, but sometimes about the show, and they're a big fan and they remember me and they remember all the characters that were on when I was on, and they really just want to know about it. And I've genuinely forgotten a lot of it. And I look at it and go, man, that kid, he's doing his best, but he's got no idea who he is or what he's doing. He's just on instinct. Yep. He's just on autopilot. And it's a really fascinating place to be at.
Yeah.
Because so much time has passed. It was 20 years ago when I started on that show.
Yeah.
But yet I still meet people who that time means nothing to them. I am that, and that is the guy standing in front of them right now. Whereas for me, I'm like, man, I barely remember it. Honestly, there's a bunch of storylines in there that I have no recollection of doing. So it's a very odd thing to reflect on.
Yeah, that's a cool point too. Like, and then because I speak to a lot of men that have done some work through us or other work through other people, and for myself, I remember even looking back on old videos or clips that we'd posted years ago and looking at that person and just going, it's like they never existed. Like really, and that's a great thing though, in complete honourment of that person too, because he is the person that got me here today.
Yes.
So it's funny. Funny to look back on. Interesting to look back on. Like
it really is. It really is. And to know, like, when I think about when I try and put myself back in my own mind back then, I kind of can't because I think that my perspective of the world and of myself has changed so drastically that I almost can't really connect with him.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it is because it's easy to fall back into old habits too. That's a mindset that you had then, which a lot of people struggle with, especially doing some development work and growth and healing work. It's easy to fall back into that old mindset or old habits. So the fact that you can't relate or reconnect with that, it's a huge piece for you. Yeah. Because you've come so far and you're not, I guess unconsciously, you're not letting yourself do that either. So
one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about that we did on the retreat, there was a lot of time spent on anger. And I wanted to talk to you about that. I wanted to ask why. What is because I observed it pretty early on. And I was like, okay, we are being steered towards looking at this more than other emotional responses. So what's the reason behind that?
So a lot of that is intuitive on the day with the people that come in. We get a feeling within the first 20 or so minutes. Well, I do in particular. I definitely try and tap into energy and feeling, and I definitely reach out to the men before they come and ask a few questions and just gauge what they could be at. Knowing as young men, little boys, that we're told not to be angry, don't get angry, there's a lot of built up and suppressed or repressed anger. Yes. A lot of men will say it's from past relationships or something that's recent, knowing it is from when it's younger. And knowing a lot of men haven't cried or let tears run down their face for a long time, anger is the gateway to sadness. Yes. So
it's a defense mechanism almost.
Yes. So knowing, I mean, you probably remember where we'd have those releases of anger and what happened straight after the sadness came. So it's just if
it wasn't happening at the same time.
If it wasn't happening already, because I love all emotions. They're great, but the emotions that I don't like anymore are the ones that are suppressed or we haven't felt. So in knowing that, it really depends on the group as well. And I mean, like yourself, there's so much that goes into that second day. I think we're there for about 4 hours moving through all of that somatic release and the work we do there. And we can individualize it too. So with you, there was a lot of questions because you come up and you were in tears and you weren't sure where, and there's a lot of questions. We're never going to tell you what it is. We'll lead you to discover it for yourself. Though knowing the work that you've done, there was a lot of questions that I had, which I got to ask outside of the room as well when you popped outside, because knowing and seeing what I've seen and what I've actually felt myself, it could be bigger than you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's, for me personally, there's definitely been a lot of things that I have been able to answer about myself, coming back to that kid that was on Home and Away and the bad habits that he learned and transcending those and things that are specific to me that I have been able to go, I hate that I do that, or I hate that this has happened to me and that's why I do this, and there has been a lot of specifics that I have been able to go through, and where I was at with the retreat with you was, I had a hard time putting my finger on it, and you did your best to try and help me to, but it was just stuff that I was like, I can't. I want to know what it is, but I just don't.
Yeah, and that's okay. and similar with a couple of guys. I'll say Anthony as well. He was trying. What we can do is try and pinpoint a time in our life that to attach that emotion to, which is really normal because we're like, I need a reference point of why I'm sad and where I'm sad and all of this. Where it's 15 to 20 times that you've been sad and haven't felt it. So a lot of it may not make sense or may not have a particular point, though there's this sadness there. Yeah. And we said it time and time again, it's okay if it doesn't make sense. It's okay if you don't have a memory of it. You know it's there. Let it move through you, feel it. And generally during a release too, we'll get people to start or whatever. It's during the release where the memories will pop back in. Oh,
that happened a few times with some of the guys.
Yep. So
they would start.
They'll come up because they're releasing that energy. And they'll go, my dad.
Yeah. And it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't come out until it didn't take much prompting, but it wouldn't come out until halfway through. Yeah. They were, stirring some shit up. Yeah. And then it'd be like, bing. Yeah. Oh, it's this. And then, oh God, get it out. And the relief that you could feel coming out of these guys after that process.
Yeah, I get a body full of goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah, me too.
I love what we do so very much, what it allows men to feel and move through. And like there's guys that are on David, like months without drinking, who drank heavily and drugs and all the rest of it for most of his life and hasn't touched it. He trains every day. Dude. Changed, dude. Like he spoke to me the other day. His marriage was not in a great, or his relationship was not in a great place, and he was unaware to it, And going back, this new person or this reinvigorated person, it's changed everything for them, which is just such a beautiful thing.
It's amazing. It's amazing because I feel like a lot of people resign themselves to the false idea that I'm too old. You can't change. It's done. It's just, this is just the way it is.
Yeah.
Whereas that's just not true.
No, not at all.
I have a theory about anger so I listen to a lot of heavy music, aggressive, angry music.
Yeah.
And I always have. It spoke to me from the moment that I discovered it at around like 14, 15.
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember you telling me the story.
Yeah. And not that AC/DC is that angry, but it is definitely aggressive and heavy.
Yeah.
But I got into way heavier stuff like thrash metal. I sang in a Megadeth cover band for a while when I was in the States, and I love really heavy music. And my theory is that I've always been able to be in control of anger. I've had moments, but I don't think that I've ever screamed at someone out of anger, because it's something that I know is not a nice thing to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely get angry, but my theory is that I think that the music that I listen to, and I don't know how conscious this is because it just spoke to me.
Yeah.
I think that music is an outlet for unchecked anger.
Huge. Well, what do you do when you're listening to that music?
I mean, sometimes I bang my head. Sometimes I sing and I scream. Sometimes
So you're having a somatic release.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's a huge part of it. And here comes the energetics talk again. But yes, if you, knowing how connected to yourself that you are, if that feels right for you and that's why you're able to control your anger, yes, you feel it. You're not going, oh, that's angry, I'm going to let it go.
No, it's the opposite.
Which is, then 100%.
And it's like one thing that I observed, which I think is probably the opposite of what people would think, is I would go to heavy metal concerts and it's rooms, sometimes stadiums, full of long-haired dudes, some women, not that many. Usually it's dudes, and they are wearing black and they look scary. They look scary.
Yeah.
But yet, this was when I was on Home and Away as a recognizable face on something that could not be further from heavy metal. You would think that would me being like just throwing myself into the lion's den. But it was the opposite. The amount of love that I got from random metalheads at a Megadeth concert or, Black Label Society or whatever the gig that I was going to was astounding.
Yeah.
I would have people come up to me and say, "Oh, hey man, you're that guy from Home and Away. Give me a hug."
Yeah.
Say, "I love the show," or my wife loves the show, or they like even guys would be like, "I don't watch it, man, but that's cool that you do that." I don't remember having a single interaction at a heavy metal concert where someone was giving me shit. The places where I remember being that happening was at trendy nightclubs and it was actually footy players.
Yeah.
I remember there was one.
What do you mean?
Throwing ice at me, trying to start fights with me.
I'm sorry I did that. I probably, I was having a conversation with Nadine the other day and looking back on things and the type of person I was and the crowds that I hung around with, I have a sister that is severely mentally challenged through life. She's had a brain injury and from she was 4 years old, so she was always in the special learning parts of the school and things like that. And then growing up as a kid, I always look back on it. Yes, I may have been in the footy groups and stuff, but I never gave anyone a hard time like that. I never stopped anyone from doing it either in fear of what they'd say to me, but I remember never doing that. So there was a piece to me, I believe, from a very young age going in that headspace of that's not right. I'd prefer to help that person. I actually, lessons again through life, looking back on it, having my sister in that space helped me with that as well. And even just like young years of primary school, going on like the PCYC camps and things, and I'd just be at the PCYC all day playing and stuff, and I'd never be with the popular group there. I'd always be with I'd see a kid playing by himself or that didn't look cool, and I'd befriend them and just hang out with them and things like that as well. So I apologise on behalf of all football players for throwing ice, my man. That's all I'm trying to say. But I've seen it and I've been there, and it comes from a jealousy point.
Yeah, maybe it does.
Yeah, like a lot of it, I would definitely say it would have been.
Well, and look, of course, that's whoever those individuals were. I remember Wendell Saylor?
Yeah.
Wendell, massive Home and Away fan.
Yeah.
Wendell came up to me one time and just chewed my ear off. I was at a club. I was on the beers. I was trying to chase girls.
Yeah.
And Wendell Saylor, I was like, oh fuck, Wendell, and he's massive.
Yeah. Huge.
And he was just he just wanted to talk about Home and Away.
Oh, yeah.
And so I sat and talked with him for like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was obviously polar opposite reaction.
Well, and then there goes to show that he's someone from the get-go has never given a fuck what anyone thinks.
Yeah,
like,
you're
he
right.
just does what he does. So
yeah, it's just an interesting observation coming back to the heavy metal and the music and the anger outlet. Like, I get why people are intimidated by that scene because you see footage of a mosh pit. I mean, that's worse than a rugby field.
Yep.
It just seems like you guys are just fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Just kicking the shit out of each other. It's so violent.
Yeah.
And some of them are. Like there's certain genres of metal that it is a different scene where it is people just being aggressive, violent people. I was never into that style of music. I think it's like hardcore and anything core really is much more violent, which is not what I was into. I was always into more the classic old school kind of stuff. And there's definitely mosh pits and I've definitely been in them, but it's not about let's have a circle pit and run into each other and swing our arms around and, just try and kick people in the face. It's not about that. It was about jumping up and down and banging your head and being into the music and being part of the group energy. Yeah. Now, it was pretty scary at times because you're literally like, you're doing this and you are squashed and covered head to toe in sweat because of it's bodies. Yeah. And you're just going, sometimes you just get, there's a big push and that's pretty scary. But even in the right mosh pit, most people, if someone goes down, they help you. They go, everyone get out of the way, they help you up. And And I think that it's just an interesting observation that the music, heavy and aggressive music itself, is an outlet of anger, which is perhaps why I've always been able to have a never let my anger take control of me.
You've got control of it.
I've got control of it.
Yeah, which is perfect.
Yeah, and I think it's because it comes through me energetically when I listen to the music that I listen to. Because, man, sometimes I check myself when I'm listening to music. I'll go to sleep with thrash metal on, man. I would do when I was on Home and Away, one of the editing rooms had a couch in it. And if I had a later call time, I'd get there early, beat the traffic, and just go back to sleep for an hour and a half, and I'd have my headphones on. And the editors would have to come up and go, "Hey, Mark, Furzey, you got to turn your music down, man. All I can hear is thrash metal coming out of your headphones." And I'm like, oh, I'm asleep.
Yeah, wow.
And it's the comfort that I found and still find in exceptionally aggressive music is very interesting. The comfort from that.
Yeah, well, again, everyone, it's choosing or finding that outlet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Which is cool.
And it makes me think about how important it is to find that. And it makes me wonder how many men especially haven't found it.
Yeah. And again, going back to comments on social media and things, I do get a lot of just tell them to go to the gym. Because I did that for most of my life. I trained my ass off. That was my outlet. It was an outlet to suppress further. So there's, again, it gets thrown around online. You need to feel it to heal it, which I truly believe. If they can come up with something that doesn't sound so gimmicky, it would be great. Though it's true, and I'd trained in excess for a lot of my life, thinking that that's what I had to do, and no relation to my feelings or anything like that. I just knew I felt better after I trained. So I'd do that. And
so the endorphin rush was definitely helping.
Definitely help. And if that's your outlet for now, keep doing it.
Yeah.
Though until you acknowledge the feelings, they're always going to be there.
I wonder if perhaps the outlet needs to be something slightly related to anger. I mean, for instance, heavy metal and screaming and aggressive, angry music. I mean, it's very related to it.
Yep.
Not all heavy metal's angry, but yeah. So there is even an unconscious outlet there. So for me, when I would listen to a lot of thrash, I would quite often not even listen to the music, to the lyrics. I just like the guitars. I like the guitar riffs. I like the melodies that was being sung. I liked the aggression of the music, but the lyrical content, I never even really paid attention to it until I got older and actually listened to it. I was like, man, this is a fucking angry song.
Yeah.
But perhaps that was obviously going in unconsciously.
Yes.
And perhaps that's played a part in me not having stored anger because I'm feeling it through this music that I'm unconsciously absorbing. Yeah,
definitely. I think there is a point of that acknowledgement, and you making sense of that now is the acknowledgement of that.
Yeah.
Though people just going to the gym or going to boxing to have that endorphin rush without acknowledging or making sense of anything, it's not going to be, it's still using an external source.
Yes.
Right? So,
I was going to say something like boxing or kickboxing, I think is a little, if you find that you need an outlet, I think that may be a healthier choice than just lifting weights or running.
Yeah, I agree, because you have that energetic exchange. Yeah. If there's a point in time that you're thinking about and it makes you angry and you hit the bag, you're having that release.
Yes.
You're going to feel a lot better of it.
Yes.
And in saying that, which brought me to, because I know this would be a cool little topic for you, and my opinions will be different from yours, but I know you'll be, might just open up. So external versus internal. Having the external source, whether you're bringing happiness in or using other things to make you happy or feel happy instead of being happy yourself internally. Now, our breath work, I had huge tickets on our breath work for you. And knowing that you had journeyed through some breaths before, plant medicine, things like that, something that I've been thinking about deeply lately, because I do get asked the question, would we bring plant medicine into what we do or journey to help journey? And no, I don't think I will ever do that.
Well, unfortunately there's a
there's a legality to
that
it.
makes it very, very risky.
Yes.
But it would be great if that wasn't the reason why
Yeah.
you would not do it, and you could choose not to do it because it's not what you want to do.
Yeah. I believe everything has its time and place. So if that's what people want to choose to do, I think that's fantastic, because you definitely had releases and change your life because of it. Though everything needs to be done by us. So my opinion is still using external sources to help you move through things. You're still not going to completely move through them.
No,
it needs to be all you.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to glorify the mushroom or ayahuasca or whatever the substance is, but it's that what I've discovered is that the psychedelics, just like breath work, just like traveling, is a tool for transformation. You have to do the transforming. Like it can facilitate that, but if you don't take the lessons with you and put them into practice after that process is done, then it doesn't matter what the tool is. Doesn't matter whether it's got nothing to do with the psychedelics, because there are people who take psychedelics and they end up worse in a different way than they were before.
Yeah.
It's not a magic bullet.
No, definitely
it can
not.
definitely show you some stuff, just like breath work, travel. Like you have to,
and you definitely had to work through our breath.
Oh man, you know what's interesting about doing the breath work with you, and even just when I've done it in general. So I've smoked DMT before. I haven't done ayahuasca. My wife has, and she's got some incredibly profound stories, and it's really fascinating to listen to her talk about the lessons that she learned. But it's a long journey, that is. You know, like when you take mushrooms, it's long. It's like at least 5 hours. When you take ayahuasca, it's like at least 5 hours. When you smoke DMT, it's like 10 minutes, but it feels like a lifetime.
Yeah.
But you're in and out, and you're back to normal, completely normal.
Yeah.
By like 15 minutes time, you're completely normal, and you're like, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know this, you explained this, when you do the holotropic breath work, you can flood your brain with DMT.
Yeah, well, it's a natural chemical in the body. So smoking it, you metabolize it a lot quicker and a lot easier than at other external, like ayahuasca or mushrooms like that as well. So,
yes.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, we went around the room and we shared our experiences if we wanted to. And a majority of the guys had a psychedelic experience.
Yeah.
And they were describing going to different planets or traveling through time or visiting past loved ones. You know, these are DMT trip experiences.
Yep.
Whereas never have I had a psychedelic DMT-like experience from doing breath work. And I've never worked as hard as I have doing breath work than I did with yours.
Yep.
And I don't know what it is. I definitely had an experience, but there was nothing psychedelic about it. It was very challenging. It was very beautiful, but there was no visuals. There was none of the going to another place. It was just a
feeling.
Yeah. And I cried, man, like I haven't cried in a long time. Like I was sobbing a few times, just couldn't even breathe. I was sobbing so much. But I've never gotten to like a psychedelic state through breathwork, and maybe that's a physiological thing with me. Maybe it's a mental thing. I don't know.
Possibly. What I feel maybe be very different for you next time is you've been able to move those blocks in you, which will open up your next experience. Because my first two experiences were very similar, I'll say. Had to work, I had lots of feeling in the body. It wasn't a lot of visual, it was more of the feeling. I'd see a little bit of colour, but that was about it. And then after doing those first two, removing the things that needed to be removed or let go of, it wasn't until probably my third or fourth where I started having
broke through into
more of my journey type thing, where I'd start to see some different things and hear messages and things like that. So yeah.
Well, that is interesting because when you go on a ayahuasca retreat, quite often you'll do 7 ceremonies night after night, and it's not uncommon for people to say, I didn't have any real experience until night 4. So that's even, drinking the brew.
Yeah.
Your body's metabolizing it and nothing happens.
Yeah.
So that makes perfect sense that however you're accessing this compound, it may not always come through. There's stuff that needs to get out the way first. Yeah, that makes sense.
I actually did a holotropic yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah. Beautiful.
How'd you go?
Great. Yeah.
Did you do it on your own?
It was online. I'm growing my awareness and bringing in different modalities of breath and learning through some really great people. So it's an online group, and we went through a holotropic. I've done 3 in the last 3 weeks.
Oh wow,
which has been awesome.
Yeah.
And
do you? So tell me, each time are they drastically different experiences, or do you get to a similar kind of place?
So they are different, yes. Lots of similar meaning though for me.
Sure.
Acknowledging the work that I've done on myself. There's always trauma to remove or sadness. Like my one 2 weeks ago was huge amounts of sadness come through.
Really?
We've lost 2 babies now in the last 6 months. And yes, I've thought I'd dealt with that, but there was still a deep sadness there, which got to come through. And then the 2 babies we lost showed themselves to me.
Did they?
Yeah, it was beautiful. Which is, I'll go even deeper. Did a breath work at the end of last year, and I had 2 entities show up in my breath. It was a purple and a blue. And for the longest time, I was trying to make a connection somewhere. I was like, oh, what chakra is that? What's this for? Nothing was just
Searching
making sense.
Meaning.
My breath work a few weeks ago, it all came to me. Unconsciously, I'd been connected to these 2 beautiful babies before they were even a thought. So they showed themselves to me, and the messages that they had for me afterwards were phenomenal. So having that,
it was a premonition of them.
Yes, and I didn't know, and I'm like, okay, cool. Okay, now I get why they showed up there. I make sense of that. They were in my life before I even knew they were in my life. Whereas a few weeks ago, they showed up again, especially with the most recent one, just a huge amount of sadness come through. And guilt from my wife. I remember saying out loud, I'm sorry, lots of tears, knowing that's no fault, but there was still obviously some guilt there from me for some reason. So I got to do that, which was really cool. And this is all in the bedroom of my in-laws' place one afternoon, and it just was cool. But last night's was really cool. In the group, there's everyone's on a different path and journey and a different stage of where they're at. And there's a lot of trauma and stuff for a lot of people, where I had a green taniwha show up, and a taniwha is a Maori spirit guide or spirit guide.
You've been visited by the taniwha before.
I have, yes, on that same one where my children were first showed them to me last year, and it was really.
How did you know it was a taniwha?
Just the picture of it.
I was going to say the accent. Hey, bro.
Just the picture of it. And then first time I spoke to Ray about it, and Ray's one of our facilitators. He's Maori, and I wanted to make sense of it. So he explained it to me. Showed up again. I've never had any green show up before, and it was green. And a taniwha is either a dragon or a serpent. They describe them as, and they're water protectors and really huge pieces of the Maori spirit. Knowing what it is now and why it's here for me is really cool. So it's just it's my dragon.
Yeah, wow. Isn't it like?
And people are going to listen to this and go, "What the fuck, dragons?"
Sure,
it's okay.
Yeah,
I don't. If you don't make sense of it, it's okay.
Yeah, but also other people who have done this will be like, "Oh yeah, cool."
Yeah,
I've had. Well, this is the thing I was going to say is like. Stop fucking trying to tell people what they can do with their own mind.
Yeah.
You know? Like I love that you can go into your bedroom and breathe and have a psychedelic experience. Yeah. You can't make that illegal. You can try and make all the other things illegal, and people still do them, but you're
going to make breathing illegal?
You can't make exactly. Exactly. And I love it. I love that because it's on the other side of that is lots of beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
The pregnancy loss stuff is as a dad, as a man, is it's a weird thing to go through for me, because we had a miscarriage before we had Soma.
Yeah.
So we weren't parents yet. We didn't know what it was like to have a little person running around, whereas you guys have already got two boys.
Two beautiful boys, yeah.
Yeah, and then you had...
Yeah, we had, beginning of the year, we had a pregnancy that we lost, a little girl. Prior to that, I was not against having more kids, but I was really scared because we had a really traumatic birth with our second.
Right.
So there was a
like
lot of fear around that, because I nearly lost my wife and nearly didn't have Beckham as our second son, who really likes you a lot.
He's a great little dude, man.
And when we fell pregnant, the immense joy that I had, because my conscious mind was telling me, no, but my unconsciously, I deeply wanted to be a dad again, which was such a beautiful thing. So the message I got from that, was about how much more love I have to give still, and how much more I want to be a dad again still, which is really cool. So as sad as things can be, having the broader awareness of why and acceptance of things happen for many, many reasons, it helps with the grieving process too, in so many ways. So we get to, yes, there's so much sadness there, but there's so much beautiful messages and joy to it too. And knowing that we're definitely going to be trying again. Obviously, Nadine's been in for some surgeries, so we're waiting a little time, though. Yeah, beautiful place to be. And for me to experience that, like you said, it's different. Different for you, different for me, different for everyone. But experiencing that, because there is that societal programming or belief of, it's only hard on the mum or hard on the woman because she's carrying, and then we get told that as men, and we're like, oh yeah, but I shouldn't be upset. I'm just going to hold frame and be here for my partner and not deal with anything. I know how fucking sad it is, and know how upsetting it is. So for me, in a space that I work in, I get to support more men with that now too, which is a beautiful thing, because I have in the past had men come through that have experienced similar things and not grieved properly for that loss. So experiencing that for myself, again, just broadens my knowledge in that area, and as well. So it's a really cool experience, knowing how connected we were to, especially to our first one. I held the frame, that masculine frame. We were in Geraldton at the time. We were about to travel somewhere else, and all of a sudden we got rushed into hospital, and Nadine had to go into surgery. So I was like, I had the dog, the kids, the caravan was all in the hospital car park. So had to and got to switch on the masculine frame. And I just got into firstly supporting and helping Nadine feel as safe as possible. And she was great. We had fantastic doctors and things over there. Got the Airbnb, got everything sorted so we could just be safe, knowing at the time that I needed to let myself feel that as well. Though for that first week, I was just like, and I thanked you too, because you reached out and rang, and it was really nice of you to do that. Though I knew that I had to, just for the family, be the man, hold, while still being so fully aware of needing to process and let myself feel it. And it come to a point probably 10 days, 2 weeks later, where I started getting snappy. Little things. Nadine was recovering. We're in the caravan. We're at Exmouth at the time. And then I sat down because I was starting to lose, my patience was wearing thin on little things that the kids were just doing, and they were just being kids. And then I sat down, I'm like, So I said, sorry to the boys for being a little frustrated with things that I shouldn't have been frustrated with. I'm like, Daddy's just really sad. And then let myself
be sad.
And it was beautiful. Beckham come up and he's just like, held me like this. He's like, oh, it's okay, Dad. Just.
You had no hope then. It was coming out.
Yeah.
It's coming out.
Yep.
And it's happening now.
But I think it's really important too, doing it in front of my boys in particular, because they get to see that that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. They saw me in my father frame of
taking care of business,
doing shit done, getting shit done, and then going,
oh, Dad's got feelings too.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's a beautiful lesson right there. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder I think that maybe if I had been in your shoes, I may have had a similar emotional response to it. I think for me in my position, I actually felt guilty because I didn't feel as much as I thought that I should be feeling.
Yeah. Guilty for not feeling guilty.
Yeah.
Or guilty for not feeling sad, which is an unusual feeling to have.
Yeah, because Laurel was going through all the physical and hormonal changes that happens when you're pregnant, and then when we got the news that we were having a miscarriage, she had to physically process that whole thing. She had to go and have the procedure done, and then that's awful in itself. But then emotionally, it was so hard on her.
Yeah.
It was so hard, and I felt really connected to and sad for her. But my relationship to losing our unborn child, I did not feel connected to it, and that made me feel so guilty.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because I even felt a bit like that. No one ever really talks about this, but I did hear a dad talking about this was in a podcast or a YouTube video. That can happen when you do have a child, and that happened to me. It took a while for me to even feel connected to her, and I felt guilty about that too. And I was dealing with this kind of shame swirl of like what I was just doing the physical things to take care of her and to take care of my wife and to, managing like how the fuck do we do this?
Yeah.
We've got a little person here, but I had no connection to her. And I think it was great that I'd been armed with the knowledge from this other dad that I'd seen in this video saying how just brace yourself, this could happen.
Yeah.
But know that it's not going to be like that forever.
Yeah.
And it happened exactly the way he explained it. He said for me, as soon as they start to interact, as my baby started to interact with me, then it all just came flooding in, and that's exactly what happened. As soon as she started to kind of giggle with me and look me in the eyes and have some interaction, I was like, oh wow, this is, oh my God, I've never loved anything like this.
That's a really cool perspective too, not having experienced children before and you lost your first one.
Yeah.
And we need to remember that it's in the woman. So they're going to have that immediate connection. And for men in a lot of ways, especially if you haven't been a father yet, that instant connection, it isn't there. You can be excited. I'm going to have a child. This is going to be cool. But
there's nothing changes for us. Apart from observing our partner, and she's going through an insanely huge transformation physically, hormonally. Your hormones make you feel the way you feel. So she's on a roller coaster. Nothing's changing for me. Yeah. So it's
other than learning to help with the emotions of
learning to get out of the way of the roller coaster when you need to.
Cooked at 12 a.m. That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Sauteed mushrooms, 2 a.m. was
sauteed mushrooms at 2
with Nadine was with our eldest. I'd wake up and smell, and I'm not a mushroom fan. 2 a.m. she'd be cooking mushrooms in butter and soy, and that was one of many things. Yeah.
One of the. Laurel didn't have any funky cravings. She was just ice cream. She was like, I can't eat anything other than ice cream. She was pretty sick. Yeah. But sauteed, I'm down with that. I'd be keen.
There's cherries.
Cherries and mushrooms.
Cherries is just, every afternoon I'd get like a punnet of cherries on the way home.
Make sure or you'd be in trouble.
At the time, we were living in Brisbane, and there was a Woolworths on the bottom of our building.
Oh yeah,
made things really easy. Yeah.
Yep. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
With a bag of mushrooms.
Shut at 9 p.m. just before about 20:22. I'll be like, "Do you feel like anything, or do you think you might feel like anything?"
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. So,
and she's like, "No, doesn't matter. I'm going to go and get some stuff.
I'll just go get some things." Yeah. So there's some options. So,
sour worms, bag of mushrooms. Yeah. Cherries. Ice cream.
Just while we're at it, and because it comes to my mind, can we watched the first State of Origin together?
Yeah.
Second State of Origin.
Second one.
You met my kids. You didn't get to watch much of it because Beckham just...
I was hanging out with Beckham. Yeah.
we haven't talked about the third state of origin.
No, we
properly.
haven't.
There was a lot of good football played on that game.
Good football. I had something on. I don't know where I was, but I'd forgotten it was on, and the group chat was going off because there's a lot of New South Wales guys and a lot of Queenslanders. So there was a fair bit of banter in the group chat, and I was like, "What's going on in here?" Because I was doing something. I think I was editing a podcast, and then I looked and I was like, "Oh fuck, the game's on now!"
Yeah.
And it was halfway through the second half. So I quick and I ran out and sat down and watched. And from the moment that I turned it on, the score was, what was it, 2-2 or something?
Something like that, yeah.
And then
So you're the one that changed the game.
it was me.
Oh,
From as soon as I set my eyes on that screen, New South Wales just opened up and just tore him a new one.
yeah. Just wanted to make mention of that for any Queenslanders.
Yeah.
Just
There is something though, and I can say this because I went to a rugby union school and I played soccer. So I wasn't, I've long since let go of trying to be the cool rugby guy. I was like, soccer guy. But what's going on with the scrums?
You know what? I don't know.
What are we doing?
Because football was my identity for a very long time.
Yeah.
It is no longer my identity. The first full game of football that I watched in probably 3 years was that State of Origin with you.
You're right.
It just doesn't have any meaning.
Yeah, I don't watch it
anymore.
either. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really unusual when you lose an attachment to something that you think shapes you.
I used to be like, as a kid, I was a mad cricketer. I was going to play cricket for Australia. I don't know the last time I watched a game of cricket.
Just sport in general. Like I'll be active myself, but watching sports in general now, other than the Formula One, I really enjoy watching the Formula One. I don't watch a full race. I'll watch the highlights the next day.
You're right. The UFC is the only sport I watch.
Yes.
And I really enjoy it. I follow it.
I love watching the fights. I don't watch them as much, but I'll see what's going on. If I can't watch it, I'll definitely keep up with that. So the football and that side of things these days for me just doesn't like. I'll put the Friday. I'm like, oh, footy's on. Put it on, and it's like, it just has no meaning for me anymore.
Weight for you anymore.
No, not at all. I'd actually prefer to go play than watch a game these days. And in saying that, I'm 41 this year, and that would not be great. So
you still got it, mate.
In here, yeah. So how's this? Madden's right into his skateboarding right now.
Oh, okay.
Loves it. I've got a cruiser in the caravan that I use all the time. Skateboarding's something I've done forever, though. Having a trick skateboard or the double kickboards, I haven't had one of those for about 25 years. Madden's got one recently. Loves getting to the skate parks, and he was like, "Dad, can you get one and show me some stuff?" I'm like, "Okay."
You're like, of course I can. I've still got it. It's in there.
Because he sees me ride a skateboard all the time.
Yes.
So that's fairly simple. But
carving on a longboard is very different to busting a heel flip.
I can hold Beckham, skate, film, all of it, and that's no issue. It's the other thing. So I got the board. We went to the skate park, cruised around. I didn't do anything too much the first day. I just got used to turning in the half pipe again, and very gingerly. The next day we went and started dropping in again. First, there was a lot of falls. Yeah. And where I'm getting to with this is I was so sore the next day.
Yeah.
Like my core and everything. I'm just like, wow. Concrete's hard.
It wasn't, but it wasn't as hard when we were kids.
No, not at all.
They made it softer.
Yep.
They've changed the formula.
It is. So I bruised ego, I'll say.
Yeah. Hips,
though it was
elbows.
really cool because I taught Madden to drop in. And
so dropping in's no joke. Dropping in's a big milestone.
It is a huge milestone.
World.
I remember getting back up there a couple of days ago going, oh,
this is fucking high.
Feel these nerves.
Yeah.
It was good. I'm like, my two kids watching, had Nadine watching. I'm like, got to do this. I really got to do this. Boom, went first one, stacked it.
Did you?
Yeah, huge. It was great. And then second one, bang, 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 bang.
Was this like proper half pipe?
Proper. Yeah,
like a mini
4
ramp.
foot? Yeah, mini ramp. 4 foot. So, and then, within a couple of goes, I was back to the 50-50 stall and back in, but I had some stacks. So it was really important for me to I didn't want to, but I'm like, I really need to show Maiden that it's okay to fall and get back up.
Mm.
So just kept
Luckily, you had no
going.
choice in the falls.
Had no choice. Had no choice.
They were going to happen.
Though I didn't want to get back up because some of them, Nadine's got it all on film too. So
yeah.
which is great. There'll be some. I shared one the other day. I'm like, how didn't I do my knee then? Like there was just a couple of moments, but it was really important because I didn't want to because it was fucking hurting. Just got up, bang, 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 bang to show him that it was okay. So
yeah, man. I remember I used to skate. I loved it.
Yeah,
I skated like crazy when I was about 16, every day for hours. And I haven't done it for a long time. But I the last time I was it was when we were living in the States and I went for a skate. I was going, I'm going to go for a skate. It's going to be fun. And I was ripping all kinds of things. I busted a couple of kick flips, heaps of ollies. I was like, man, it's still in there.
Yeah.
And then just as I was coming home, I hit a rock and went for 6 and sprained both of my wrists at once. I was like a T-Rex for a good week. And came home like all mangled. It was, but I'd come so far. I was doing so well for so long,
and you bounce back a lot slower when you got some miles behind.
It's just not the same.
Yeah, I did that too. Coming down it was when we first got the first day. Got there. Was at the Alexandria Headland skate park. Great skate park. There cruising around. So I was like, I'll just get used to going down there. So first rolling went down. Rock. Bzz.
Oh yeah, and that moment time just stands still.
Yeah.
You and you're like,
I'm gone.
And there's nothing you can do.
No,
you're just floating through the
I'm like,
air.
I didn't even do anything.
No,
it wasn't even my fault.
And the board's gone. You're floating. How much pain am I going to be in? Can I roll? Bang.
Yeah,
and you cop it. I remember there was this kid at the skate park. In Orange, we had a really good skate park, and there was this kid, Pete, and he was a few years younger than me. He was pretty young actually, but he was just a weapon, man. He would just rip these lines around the whole skate park, getting heaps of air, doing grabs and stuff. Like it was like watching Tony Hawk. He was, it's so much more advanced than pretty much anyone else, but he always had these 2 lines of snot. Because he was too busy ripping lines, ripping these awesome angles through the skate park that he would have, and they would dry, and it was like he had a green booger moustache.
Wow!
I was like, if that's what I need to do to become a good skateboarder, I don't know if I've got it in me.
Breaking the habit of doing this,
yeah.
So you just have that dry booger moustache,
grubby little skater kids, man.
Perfect.
Yeah, the sport of skating, drastically different sport to rugby league or rugby union.
Hugely different.
Yeah.
Mate, going back to the retreat.
Yeah.
Is there a standout moment for you?
There's a few. The one moment where I really kind of clicked in to everything was not one that was, it kind of crept up on me. I didn't think it would be as significant for me as it was. And it wasn't a very big thing out of when you compare all the things that we did. This was not a very big one, but it was the start of day 2. We'd gone on on our early morning
the hike
and emptied our backpack of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
We came home. We came back and we saw the sunrise and we did some breath work and we showed gratitude for the day, for the physical place we were in, looking over the beautiful mountain and just being outside together. And we all were encouraged to look each other in the eyes, give each other a hug and just kind of bring in the day. It's a relatively simple exercise, it's nothing too crazy, but it was that. It was going around and looking each one of the guys in the eyes, giving them a hug and just connecting like that.
Yeah.
Man, it was so special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite parts.
Yeah.
They're all my favourite parts.
Yeah. Because for me, we crossed a threshold then. For me personally, it stopped being... We'd done enough things already for it to feel like we had stopped being a group of strangers who were using our courage to do something that's challenging in order to better ourselves with each other, to we were connected. For me, that felt like these guys are no longer strangers. Something had bonded me to those guys in that moment. And there was a couple of the guys that I hadn't even really spoken to at all by that point. But there was, and we kind of acknowledged that with each other when we looked at each other and gave each other a hug and like, oh man, we need to spend a bit more time together, don't we? Because we're doing something special right now. And that was pretty clear with each of us. It was just, there wasn't really anyone that I didn't share that feeling with. I felt like we were all on the same page with that at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, beautiful part. Something that we do a little different to probably lots of other men's retreats is we have the women involved.
Yeah.
How was that for you? How was it? Because there's a huge energy shift.
Yeah.
We notice it every time, and it's different every time. With you, the nerves that come up in the room as soon as the women come in. How is that for you? For me personally, I felt more comfortable. Yeah. I have been in the situation where I've never been much of well, this is one of the reasons why I went, because I crave deeper connection with groups of guys. And I haven't had that very much in my life. Like I never really, I get that in a footy team, there is a connection you get through bashing into each other. There's something about the tackling and the physicality of it, the wrestling, that does connect you to each other, but that just never really worked with me. I never really enjoyed that, being that physical. I loved playing soccer and I made great friends with my soccer teammates, but for me, I was never really a very rough and tumble guy. So I felt more nervous when we arrived, being I'm here with a group of dudes and I don't know who they are. I don't know what they're like. I don't know what the dynamic's going to be. I don't know whether there's going to be these emotional dick measuring contests, or actual physical dick measuring with Danny, There wasn't physical dick measuring. No. If he had his way, probably.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about it, but there wasn't. So that for me was more nervous. I've always found that in my life that I've had no trouble making friends with women and been very comfortable in the presence of women. So personally, it was really no problem. I when they came in, I felt like I was very happy to welcome them in, and I felt comfortable. I felt uncomfortable because of what we were doing, because I almost felt a bit blindsided. I was not ready for that. And
we like to surprise people.
You really kind of threw us in there. I was like, oh, fuck, we're doing this now.
If we give too much warning, it gives people too much time to
get
internalize it. So,
So that made me uncomfortable. But I personally really liked it. I can't speak for everyone else, and I'm sure that there are a lot of people who tense up because it's different. There's that.
They don't feel safety in the feminine, which is perfectly normal for a lot of men. And then like you, there's a lot of men that don't feel safety in the masculine.
Yeah, that was me.
In groups of men, which is really cool as well, because that's a question that sometimes gets asked, who feels safe with other men? And most men are with other men most of the time, but they still don't feel safe. And that safe as being safe to open up, safe to share, things like that. So,
and I think personally my issue with that has come from, I feel like I've probably been too open and too vulnerable with, not too vulnerable, but maybe too vulnerable for some men. Like I tend to, and maybe that's a feminine trait where I just tend to go to them. I mean, they do this podcast, Deep and Meaningful. It's like I crave these kind of conversations with people. And ironically, it's been mostly men that I've had on. I would love to chat with more women. But in my life, I tend to have been more doing this, and it's not always very well received by men, as well received as it is by women. This kind of conversation, women are typically more open to. At least that's what my experience has been. So in being in groups of men has been like, how am I going to come across.
Yeah, you'll have to get Nadine on sometime. There'd be some great questions for you, for her, especially knowing my story.
Yeah.
I guess seeing her point of view would be
I'd love
cool
to if
chat.
she's keen.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
She loves talking.
Yeah.
Loves talking.
Set the cameras where we go.
Yeah.
So Nadine then.
Yeah. I guess you can make sense of why we bring the females into, because for me, in my journey, and this is all based on my journey, how we've and Nadine's journey and things we've changed along the way, I had the experience of having some healing moments similar to what we provide. There was women in the room, and I know that I would not have had the same experience or been able to move on with what I needed to move on with if they hadn't have been there. So from day one, even before the first retreat, I'm like, we are having women come into the retreat to provide that space and that feeling and that opportunity for men to move through that as well. So
I think that's a very wise decision. I very, very much agree with you. There's, as you said, there is an energetic shift. There can be puffing of the chest when it's just dudes.
Yeah.
And that's just that's fun at times, and that's just kind of inevitable.
Yeah.
Whereas when there are women brought into the equation, that bravado, it changes.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing being vulnerable in front of men.
Yeah.
It's another level of being vulnerable in front of women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe it's different for I've always felt more comfortable being vulnerable in front of women. I think that they receive it better. I think that they're in general more in touch with their feelings and their own vulnerability. I mean, women, that's just kind of what's one of the most beautiful things about the differences between men and women. Women feel. Women, they're more up and down for sure, but they don't hold on to stuff as much as guys do. So yeah, I've always felt more comfortable being vulnerable around women.
Which is cool. And a lot of men don't too. So it's where, I mean, you speak to wives, partners, girlfriends, they actually crave it. They're like, I just want my partner, my husband to be vulnerable in front of me, because like it's part of the nature of women is to nurture. That being, there's nothing more beautiful than could be the masculine of men being held by his partner in a vulnerable state. It's a beautiful thing, and the fucking strength that you actually have together, the connection that you get together, the love that you feel together, it's just it sends your relationship to another level.
And I think there's an important distinction between being vulnerable and being pathetic.
Yes.
It's not the same.
No.
It's not being vulnerable as a man and saying how you feel. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be all girly and feminine or like a little kid. That's not what it is. It's just being open.
Yeah.
And being honest. And I do think that it is important to know that too much of that would be probably quite unattractive to a woman.
Yeah, there's being
because she does want to be held as well.
Whining.
Yeah. And typically there are roles that just work biologically.
Yes.
And too much of one in the wrong side of things is there are problems that arise.
Definitely. Too much of anything's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've gone pretty deep.
Yeah. Well, leading up to the name, mate.
We've done it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to chat about? Oh, we need to change the rules of rugby league so there's no scrums anymore. Like either do the scrums properly or don't do them.
Yeah.
What's your take on that stuff?
I like scrums because it gives the outside backs an opportunity for space.
I think it's what to take a breath. Catch their breath.
Gives the guys like, I know he doesn't play more, like the Greg Inglis's and the fancy footwork guys, gives them an opportunity for space. So,
but it's not but I get that, but they're not doing a scrum.
No.
They've just put their arms around them.
Yeah,
and
have
they
the forwards stand in a bunch and then let the backs have. I like the idea of like giving the outside backs space to create and do something themselves.
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I'm sure there's another way that could.
Well, you could do a real scrum like in rugby union.
They used to in the 80s.
Did they?
Yeah.
In rugby, it was actually contested scrums?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
It just seems like every time I see it, I'm like, what are you doing? Just do a tap. This is a waste of time.
I think it's the speed of the game too.
Yeah.
Because it would slow down and there would be re-scrumming and things like that.
Yeah.
I think just they wanted to speed the game up so there was more action, was more movement. And if you're refeeding a scrum 3 or 4 times, that can take 2 or 3 minutes out of the game. And
yeah, okay. Flat, so. I get that. And hey, look, coming from a soccer perspective, don't get me started on soccer. Soccer makes me so friggin' frustrated. Stop diving. Stop trying to milk penalties.
Yeah.
It's pathetic.
It is.
I wish there was a different...
How does the referee not see that? Like,
well, how do the camera guys not see it? Like we can do a replay. I wish there was a different discipline of soccer where the rules were slightly changed, where it's a bit more aggressive, a bit more physical. And if there is someone that goes down, we very quickly do the replay. And if he's gone down without being tackled and he's milking it, that guy gets a yellow card.
Yeah.
You get penalised for faking it.
Yep.
Because I just feel like the game's so lame. It's just pretending that you're hurt all the time. And then you're up. I love it when they put the spray on them and then they're up again.
There's some great memes around with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
And look, it's been a long time since I've watched any soccer. So.
Yeah. Yeah, me either, because of that exact thing. It's just too cringy. With some of the Olympics, are we going to watch it in the Olympics? I don't know if I've got it in me.
I haven't watched any so far.
No, me either.
I mean, I follow some sport pages I know that we've won 6 or 7 gold medals so far, which is pretty great. Yeah.
Oh shit, it's actually probably started.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I think Saturday. I didn't watch the opening ceremony, which there was a lot of outcry over.
Was. I know that Gojira played a metal band, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And very odd that because they're no joke. They're heavy.
Heavy. Yeah,
but they are a very big metal band.
I might have to have a proper watch of it to see what everyone's speaking about. So
yeah, I know there was a lot of. I didn't see it either. There was a lot of people upset about a lot of things.
Yes, and
which I don't know if I have time for, to be honest.
I get it, and it's just this opening ceremony at the same time.
Yes,
and in saying that, full respect to the Catholic Christian community and why they may be upset about it. I completely get that. So.
Yeah. And then we were talking about this before, but when you're a dad of little kids, you're just trying to avoid getting gastro and the flu. Like
you were going to tell me your gastro story.
Sure. All right, I'll tell you the gastro story.
What way to finish? What way to finish?
This is perfect.
Yeah.
So I was taking care of Soma all day. Laurel was working, and I changed the nappy, and she had diarrhea. Little kids get that sometimes. So I was like, all right, fine. Only one time. She didn't really seem to be unwell. She was okay, but it was like it was not a fun nappy to change.
Just pooing.
Yeah, that one was like got a bit on me. You usually do when it's like that, and trying your best to keep it together. And then I had a gig in Brisbane that night, so I've driven to Brisbane, and I get a call before we're about to go on from Laurel. She's going to hate me for sharing this, but too bad. She tells me, it's happening, babe. I'm on the toilet. And I was like, oh, no. This is not just something that Soma ate. This is a bug.
Yep.
So I warned the guys and our manager. I said, look, just so you know, I've been taking care of my daughter. I think she's got gastro. My wife's got it now. I'm fine right now. And so the manager goes, here, look, she's got this little kit. Sharon, shout out to Sharon. She's got this little kit of all this goodies, and she goes, have a couple of Gastro Stop, love. So she gives me these 2 tablets, Gastro Stop tablets out of a Mary Poppins bag, and away we go. I go on stage, and we do the first set. So it's 2 1-hour sets.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. First set's great. Come off, and she says, how you feeling? And I was like, I think we might need to go on again pretty quick. I think we need to cut this break short because I feel weird.
Yeah.
Like I'm okay, but I don't feel right.
Yeah.
She goes, have another one. So she gives me another Gastro Stop. Right? We go on for the second set. It's packed, by the way. One of the bigger gigs that we played, full, probably nearly 300 people there. About 5 songs in, it starts to hit me. And because I've had this Gastro Stop, nothing's going to come out. I just turned into Ozzy Osbourne, trying to tell, like, I'm hanging off the mic stand to keep me, like, the first set I'm jumping around, doing all my rock and roll moves. Second set, I am like just keeping me standing up by holding on to the mic stand.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, anytime there's a guitar solo, I'm taking a knee, I'm drinking water, I'm looking up at Kerry, looking behind me at Kerry the drummer, and he's kind of going, are you okay, man? Like, he can see that I'm hanging on for dear life. And I finished the set. Immediately when we finish, I run off stage, run straight to the bathroom and start spewing. And it didn't come out the other end yet.
Yeah.
But I was in the bathroom for about an hour and then trying to figure out, what do I do? I'm in Brisbane. I live on the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
I checked the maps. It was like a 54-minute drive. I couldn't go to anyone else's house in the band because they live on the other side of Brisbane, so that was pointless. So I was like, you know what? I can do it. I'm just gonna pull over at servos if I have to spew or shit myself. I'll just pull over and it'll be fine. I'll just stop as many times as I can do this. I'm just gonna power through. So I jump in the car. Then I jump straight out of the car before even leaving and spew again.
Yeah.
Then I jump back in the car. I'm like, fuck, this is gonna be rough. I get to the freeway and I have to pull over in like the emergency stopping bay, spewing my guts up. Immediately this like emergency vehicle comes up behind me. He's like, "G'day, mate, how you going? That's Trent here from Emergency Services. You can't stop here." And I'm like in the bushes. I've climbed over the railing thing and I'm just going, I'm real sick, man. And I don't know if he thought I was drunk or whatever. And he was like, "Oh, that's no good. Well, you can't keep stopping here because every time you stop in one of these, someone like me is going to pull up straight away. We've got all these cameras. You're going to have to go to servo." It's like, okay, well, that's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, look,
no situational awareness there whatsoever.
it just gets worse and worse, dude. Like, I ended up stopping 7 times.
Wow. 4-hour trip home from Brisbane.
It took me 4 hours to get home from Brisbane, and the pooing started.
Yeah.
This is a highlight. I went to pull over to a servo. The servo would not let me in because it was too late at night. I went to pull over to another servo, and there were all these what can only be described as street youths out the front. I was like, I'm not fucking dealing with that right now. And I was like, I got to go. I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
The fever's kicking in. Kmart, great. There's a car park, empty car park, great. Pretty well lit. I was like, this is the only place I've got.
Yeah.
I'm hanging onto the bull bar of my ute. I've got my pants down. I'm vomiting. I'm pooing.
Wow.
I'm ready to die.
Yeah.
I was ready to die. I look up. I'm like, this is it. This is how I go. Take me now. I don't even care.
Yeah.
I look up. Security camera right there.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
Perfect.
someone has got
some great footage.
Of me.
So it'll be on the internet somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, that was honestly, that was one of the worst experiences of my life. And I'm surprised at how well I handled it in the moment. I just powered through.
You just have, that's the thing too, the human conditioning. You just have to at times. So I think from all parents, we feel your pain. There's one vivid memory of some gastro with me where all day it had passed through the house. I was the last one to get it. And just like, how is this still coming out of me?
Oh, I know.
When's it going to stop?
And then when it does stop, but you're still vomiting, that's the worst.
I've never got the vomits. It's
always out the back end.
Yeah, well, I'm just like...
Well, here's the thing though. When you're at home, give me diarrhea over vomiting any day.
Yes.
Because you just sit, you feel sick, but you just get it done. You're great. You're in the comfort.
But then the anus gets a little sore from wiping so much.
But the vomiting's so much more violent, like the cramping and the nausea that comes with it. But trust me, when you're on the road, you do not want anything but vomiting.
Yeah.
Being away from the comfort of your own home. Well, eventually I got to a McDonald's and they let me in. It was open.
Yeah.
I went into the bathroom. I was all done out the back end then.
Yeah,
of course. Right. I had nothing left after hours and hours of it. I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
I thought McDonald's, the Golden Arches were going to be my saviour, but no, it was a lesson for me to learn.
Yeah. And you can look back on that experience now with some fondness.
It's a funny story. If it had happened to anyone else, it would be even funnier.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very funny. I hope one day I get to see the footage.
So
it'll be like the damning my downfall.
Yeah.
So on that note, mate, something to think about. Should we wrap it up?
Yes, definitely. Before we do, can I just say thank you?
Yeah, man.
For having me on, though, for like creating your platform like this and having these deep and meaningful conversations, whether it be with Jeff and mindset or about 10-pin bowling or men's work. It's really cool, man. And I appreciate it and you.
Thanks, brother.
Welcome.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's worth every second of it. I really enjoyed doing it, and I'm really pleased to have you back again. And straight back at you. Thank you for doing what you're doing. You're doing some real shit, and it's among the junk that people throw at you because you're triggering things inside them that ironically they probably need to dive into the work that you're facilitating.
Yeah,
that's got to take a toll on you, and good on you for powering through it.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. It could have taken a toll on me. I choose to not let it. I get to have a laugh at it at times too. Yeah. That's
beautiful,
cool.
Man.
Yeah.
All right, brother. See you in the next one.
We will.
See you later, everybody.